Hello, Daryl. I can see you. Where are you? You look like you're inside some kind of enclosed area. He said he's by a nuclear power plant. Somewhere in Dallas. Can you tell me what year? He said no. Is anything bad happening there? He said there was a crack that we were concerned about. Are you doing something about it? He said we're bringing it to their attention and they fix it. I said, why didn't they see it earlier? He says they don't check things as often as they're supposed to. He said that many people work in these types of facilities, and that's the real problem. It's not so much that they are in, it's not just weather and other issues. He says that problems and leaks can happen anywhere, but he said they won't necessarily tell the public when there's a problem, but we know about it. We have an idea of radiation levels and all sorts of things on the earth. And he says some of you do also. He said if you test the radiation at different levels throughout the earth, you might be surprised to find that there has been some exposure to things that nothing was ever mentioned in the news. No one ever wants to admit to their mistakes. And something like the Fukushima event would never have happened if people were able to talk about the smaller leaks that were happening earlier. I'm asking why didn't you catch that earlier? Why weren't you able to prevent that for us? I'm not saying it's your responsibility, Daryl, but it seems like you have a concern. He said he wasn't allowed to go over there. He wanted to. He said others have. And they tried. But for some reason those people didn't want to listen. It's as if they didn't care or something. He's saying he wants some change. We have to see the change happening everywhere. I asked him if there's a remedy for any type of nuclear accident, and he says, of course there is. I'm asking him if they know about it in our timeline right now, and he says, yes, they do. Then why aren't they implementing it over in places where there has been problems, like in Chernobyl or Fukushima? He says that there have been bigger problems and blasts out in western US, and you don't see as big of a problem because they know how to manage it. He said the technology's there if they want to use it. I don't think people are going to be happy when they hear this information, Daryl. They're not going to want to feel that they've been betrayed or that people are suffering now because they've been holding back from helping. He said it's much more complex than that. It has to do with some of these other powers that many of the population on your planet and the time that you're residing, you're living there, is they're not aware of all the power structures that exist. And so that would cause a bigger problem. If they all were aware of it and awakened to it, then there could be some major crises. And right now he's showing me some cities. What city is that? He said that's Austin. Why are you focused in on Texas? Is there something going on there that's drawing your attention? He's saying that he's there in around 1992 or so. He said, yeah, there were some things that happened here. There was an ET invasion around the 90s in that area. He said, you lived around here, didn't you, around that time? I said, I left around 89 or so. He said that's probably the reason why they sent you away. There was a big invasion. It looks like it was it was a 12D Pleiadian, or it's a complex group. It's a collaborative of a few different civilizations, and they're set in a triad group, or it's like three coming together in a biosphere. They have their experimental civilization right around Texas, and it brings in a lot of new information and a lot of alien discoveries or insights, but it is not to help humans. It's kind of opening the door for them to have more access in the human experience. I said, can I ask you who they are? And he said he'd rather not say completely about who they are and why they're there. He said there are those that are saying that they're, not returning, or they're not planning on being around, or they haven't been around, but some of them have been around the whole time. They're lying. I'm asking if this has anything to do with Valiant Thor, and he says very much so. Why did they? I'm glad that I moved away from there at that time. I was living in Oklahoma. But why? What was going on there? Did it protect me by leaving? He said it kept you more clear. They were trying heavily to communicate with you, and so that's the reason why I had all these anomalies that were happening, where I was opening up dimensionally a lot at that point, and really strange things were happening. And so that's correct. They kind of took over vertically from Texas on up, which reached up to the Dakotas. So it's Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa. They had different areas that you could see the ships going straight up into Canada. I asked what did they do there, and he said that it was a place for them to come out, to integrate with humans. and began setting things up where you actually start seeing a change in the human culture, or the American culture in particular. Some feel that the U.S. needs to be judged, and they were going to contribute to reasons why the U.S. should be judged. And they added, they created the earth as their playground. They came in and wanted to do some things that they weren't allowed to do in other galactic spaces. I remember someone telling me about a park where there were a lot of people missing, not just children, but people. Does that have anything to do with it? He said that sometimes there's different reasons why there are abductions, and he said sometimes it's like displacement. So typically prisoners from off-world will come here and then they'll take humans and replace them in the prison so that it doesn't appear as if they're missing. Like, what to call it, bait and switch, is that what you mean? And he said yes. That's not good. So there's no question as to whether or not these prisoners are missing, or they just naturally then integrate into our area, and they trick those that are kind of monitoring who comes onto the earth or not. He said that's correct. He said, but we can tell right away. They come after us, and they came after us very heavily at that time. We had to leave. And it caused us to travel. We went back into the 60s, moved into the 70s, the 80s, and then skipped over the 90s. But we know we need to go back into the 90s and fix some things, so we went back. And that's where we're at right now. I'm asking if they have anything to do with the nuclear problem. And he says they think, they haven't figured out exactly what the reason is, but they think that they use nuclear issues as a distraction from other things that they want to do on the planet, and create fears and problems. They bring in world change. So this is, let me just clarify, this is the 12D Pleiadian? He said yes. And then there's other groups. He said yes. Some of them are from Sirius. He said yes. He said there's a bird species there as well. We need some time to look through everything, and we're going to make some adjustments. He said the Dallas airport is filled with them. They look like tourists. They're not. We decided not to fly. We were probably going to just walk through and maybe travel on a vehicle or hitchhike. We haven't decided. Are you safe, Daryl? Is it something that you can do, you can travel on, it's not a problem? He said it's never a problem. He said we know who we can trust and who we can't trust. And there's some very good people still here. Some of them we like an awful lot. There was a man that had a pickup truck, kind of a red, worn-out pickup truck with a dog, like a golden retriever. He didn't have a whole lot, but he gave us some food. Asked us if we wanted to work on the farm for a little bit with him. He's kind of a small farm and he had some cattle next to his land. He said that as nice as it was, some of us were longing for that kind of kindness, and he said we couldn't stay. People start getting attached and they start asking questions. And so we have to hold back in talking about what we're doing. That's all I have to share with you for right now. Okay, Daryl. Thanks for coming through and letting me know. So do you think that problem there in Texas will be resolved? He said, I think so, but not the ones from the Pleiades. He says there's going to be a problem, and they don't let go for some time. You'll see. But I'll be back to talk to you again. And I said thank you. He said, by the way, he says, I'm in a trolley car. He said, I found a train that I can talk to you. I said, okay. Be safe. He said, you also. Okay, so that was my message from Daryl today. Interesting. He kind of jumped around in time a bit in our timelines. And it was kind of weird that he was around the area where I was. Wasn't necessarily in Texas, but more in Oklahoma and even up more north, Nebraska, around that time. So, yeah, it was a very weird time for me to be living in that area. Now I got a little more clarity on it. So anyhow, that's the message for today. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Trouble, 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 trouble been dog in my soul since the day I was born.